There are certain questions in life that cannot be answered with logic, certain encounters that cannot be explained by coincidence, and certain moments where the invisible touches the visible. Among all these mysteries, there is one that speaks directly to the soul. How does God introduce you to the one meant for you? It does not begin in the outer world. It begins in the silence within. Before your paths cross in the physical world, a preparation takes place in the unseen. Your heart is being shaped, your mind is being stretched, your wounds are being exposed, not to break you, but to make room for something sacred. A connection not built on attraction alone, but on recognition. Recognition of a soul that mirrors your growth, your patience, your prayers. In this life, meeting your soulmate is not about searching, it is about becoming when you are aligned with your higher self. When your actions echo your values, when your heart is no longer desperate but full, that's when the divine hand begins to move, not fast, not loud, but intentionally, quietly. Sometimes it comes as a whisper, sometimes as a test, sometimes as distance before closeness, but always it comes with purpose. So the question is not, where is my soulmate? The question is, who am I becoming in the waiting? Because when God introduces you to the one meant for your soul, you will not need to chase, force, or beg. You will recognize, you will understand, you will arrive. There are certain moments in life where silence holds more answers than words, where stillness becomes the language through which the divine communicates. One of the most profound mysteries is not something that can be solved through study or learned through effort. It is something felt, something known without explanation, the moment two souls recognize each other. But long before that meeting, long before eyes lock or hands touch, there is preparation. An unseen choreography begins in the spiritual realm, not based on attraction or timing, but on alignment. Because God does not introduce you to your soulmate when you are longing to fill a void. He introduces you when you are overflowing with presence, with awareness, with growth. In this life, we are often taught to search, to make lists, to evaluate, to plan. But there are some unions that transcend planning. They arrive like the wind, quiet, unseen, yet impossible to ignore. God prepares you for that meeting by first teaching you how to be alone. He teaches you solitude, not as loneliness, but as a sacred discipline. In your solitude, you meet yourself fully. You sit with your fears. You confront your patterns. You become aware of the cycles you have repeated and the beliefs you have inherited. And slowly, you begin to shed what no longer belongs to you. You begin to transform, not to become someone else, but to return to who you truly are beneath all the conditioning. The journey to your soulmate begins with the journey to yourself. You must come home to your own spirit. Learn how to stand without leaning, learn how to give without expectations, learn how to listen, not to respond, but to understand. God does not pair two people who are perfect. He pairs two people who are prepared. And preparation in its truest form is purification. You are not being punished in the waiting. You are being refined. The relationships that broke you were not accidents. They were mirrors showing you where you still need healing. The silence you feel now is not absence. It is divine construction. God is not withholding. He is aligning. Every unanswered prayer was not a rejection, it was protection. Every closed door was not a delay. It was redirection. When you begin to see life this way, peace begins to fill you. You no longer chase love, you embody it. You no longer fear solitude, you embrace it. You begin to understand that your soulmate is not the answer to your emptiness. They are the reflection of your wholeness. When you are finally able to sit with your own presence without craving someone else to complete you, that is the moment heaven begins to respond. God is not only writing your story, He is shaping you into someone who can carry the blessing without turning it into a burden. Your soulmate is not just a person. They are an assignment, a calling, a reminder of your higher path. When you meet them, it will not be loud. It will be subtle, familiar. You will recognize them not because of appearance, but because of energy. Your spirits will remember each other, not from this life, but from the space between lives, the space where souls make promises, the space where destiny is woven. But for that recognition to happen, your inner eyes must be open. And they do not open through force. They open through surrender, through trust, through releasing timelines and leaning into divine timing. Many will try to bypass this stage. They will jump from person to person, hoping to stumble upon love. But love is not stumbled upon, it is cultivated. It grows in sacred ground, and you are that ground. Your mind, your heart, your spirit. This is where love takes root. If your soul is not ready, the right person will feel wrong. But when your soul is ready, even the wrong person can no longer distract you. The one meant for you will not compete with your peace. They will complement it. They will not rush your process. They will recognize it. They will see you not as a project, but as a presence, and you will not need to perform. You will simply need to be. This is the beauty of divine timing. It requires no manipulation, only patience, preparation, and peace. You must become the person who can hold the kind of love you are praying for. You must learn to speak the language of authenticity, or you will miss the soul speaking that same language. And in the process, you begin to understand that love is not found. It is revealed when two souls become ready at the same time, through different paths, shaped by separate lessons, but called by the same truth. God is not concerned with convenience, he is concerned with character. He is not matching resumes, he is matching frequencies. So if you are still waiting, do not wait in worry, wait in growth, wait in awareness, wait in discipline, because when the meeting happens, it will not be fireworks. It will be clarity, a deep knowing, a calm recognition, and the path you once walked alone will finally make sense, not because someone completes you, but because they walk beside you without disturbing your walk. Not every connection in your life is meant to last forever. Some are meant to teach, some are meant to challenge, and some are meant to awaken parts of you that you had buried long ago. In the search for a soulmate, many people mistake intensity for depth, familiarity for destiny, and passion for alignment. But God's way of introducing you to your soulmate does not rely on surface emotion. It relies on divine precision. Every step you take, every person you meet, every heartbreak you endure, each is an intentional part of the design to bring you closer to yourself, and eventually to the one who reflects your truest self. Not the self shaped by fear, ego, or past wounds, but the self you become when you've finally remembered your worth and reclaimed your peace. There are lessons that come with every connection, but not every connection is sacred. The sacred ones do not arrive to create chaos. They arrive to bring clarity. But for clarity to be recognized, the inner world must be still. God prepares your heart for such clarity by first letting it break. The brokenness, though painful, makes you sensitive to authenticity. The cracks in your soul teach you how to feel beyond the words people speak. You begin to notice what is felt more than what is seen. You learn to pay attention to the energy behind intentions, and this level of discernment is not given. It is earned through endurance, solitude, and sincere reflection. Before God introduces you to your soulmate, he often strips away the noise. The people who distract you, the places that drain you, the patterns that deceive you, they begin to fall away. Sometimes it feels like loss, like isolation, like being forgotten. But it is in that solitude that you begin to hear the whisper of your intuition again. You begin to see yourself not through the lens of need, but through the lens of truth. You stop asking, when will I meet the right person? And begin asking, what parts of me still resist being loved properly? This shift in focus is not a small one. It is everything, because it changes your posture from one of desperation to one of readiness. When you become ready, the energy you carry changes. You no longer tolerate what once drained you. You no longer entertain half-hearted affection or temporary comfort. You begin to require presence, honesty, alignment, and not because you are demanding, but because you are finally living in alignment with your soul's values. Your standards are not about ego, they are about peace. And peace is the atmosphere where love can breathe. not the love that burns fast and leaves you empty, but the love that grows slowly and roots itself in the sacred. God is not in a rush. He does not operate within the timeline of your impatience. He sees the full picture, the past you carry, the wounds you hide, the strengths you deny. He knows who can hold you, not just when things are beautiful, but when your shadows emerge. Your soulmate is not someone who saves you. They are someone who sees you and stays, not because they have to, but because your presence calls them home. This kind of bond cannot be created through force. It must unfold naturally, in alignment with divine timing. There is something sacred about divine preparation. You begin to understand that every unanswered prayer was a setup for something more profound, that the love you thought you lost was actually misaligned with your higher self, that the rejections you took personally were actually redirections, pulling you away from what would have distracted you. The divine works not only in what you receive, but in what you're protected from. And when you finally recognize this, you stop rushing, you start aligning, you start becoming. Your soulmate is not lost. They are being shaped just like you, in their own journey with their own battles, guided by the same unseen hand that is guiding you. Every delay is a refinement. Every detour is a lesson. And when the time is right, your souls will not just collide. They will recognize. They will feel like a continuation of a conversation you didn't realize had already begun. And in that moment, it won't be about perfection. It will be about alignment, two souls shaped by truth, not ego, two hearts open from experience, not fear, two people who don't complete each other, but elevate each other toward their higher purpose. You begin to realize that the introduction does not happen on a stage. It happens in stillness, in alignment, in quiet knowing. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic entries. It's about presence. The kind of presence that feels like peace in a world full of noise. The kind of connection that does not demand attention, but commands respect through its consistency and truth. And to be able to receive this kind of love, you must first become the kind of person who can hold it without self-sabotage or fear. You must become the answer to the kind of prayer you once whispered in your most honest moments. And from that space, the divine introduction is not just possible, it becomes inevitable. Sometimes before God introduces you to your soulmate, He places you in a season of deep internal transformation. This is not a season of punishment, but one of preparation. It often feels uncomfortable because everything you once relied on for identity begins to shift. The distractions that once brought you comfort no longer satisfy you. The relationships that once felt familiar now feel heavy. The places that used to echo with belonging begin to feel hollow. This is not coincidence. It is the divine gently detaching you from what no longer serves the person you are becoming. It is a sacred disruption, a pause between chapters, a silent unfolding of something greater. In this season, you may feel alone, but you are not abandoned. You are being set apart. You are being carved into the person who is not only capable of receiving love, but of giving it from a healed and grounded place. This carving process can feel like loss, like confusion, like stillness stretched too long. But it is here that your character is forged. It is here that your spiritual sensitivity sharpens. Here, you begin to distinguish between emotional impulse and intuitive guidance, between fleeting desire and lasting alignment. God does not introduce two people by accident. The meeting is always purposeful, always precise. There is no such thing as a soulmate relationship that bypasses inner growth. These relationships are mirrors. They reflect back to you not only your beauty and potential, but also the parts of you still in need of grace and growth. That is why the inner work must come first. Without it, the very blessing you long for could overwhelm you. Without it, you may misinterpret deep love as danger or closeness as threat. That's why God invites you to heal before He invites you to unite. Healing is not a straight line. It is a spiral, a cycle, a revisiting of old patterns from new levels of awareness. Each time you are triggered, it is not a step backward, but an opportunity to respond differently, to choose peace over chaos, to choose stillness over reactivity, to choose presence over projection. And with each conscious choice, you become more whole. You no longer seek someone to fix you. You seek someone to walk with you, not from a place of need, but from a place of shared purpose. This shared purpose is what separates divine connection from romantic attachment. The soulmate relationship is not about filling a role. It is about fulfilling a mission. There is something your souls are meant to do together, something that requires maturity, trust, communication, and deep spiritual connection. The bond is not transactional, it is transformational, and because of that, it requires both of you to be rooted in yourselves, rooted in your values, rooted in something greater than ego or emotion. When two people come together prematurely, before the lessons have been learned, before the wounds have been faced, the connection may ignite quickly, but it cannot sustain, because without inner stability, even love becomes heavy. Even blessings become burdens. That is why divine timing matters, not just so the paths cross, but so the hearts are ready, ready to recognize, ready to receive, ready to respond with wisdom and not with fear. There is a sacred stillness that comes when you begin to trust this process. You stop looking outward for signs and begin looking inward for alignment. You stop praying for someone to arrive and start preparing for what you want to build. You start asking different questions. Am I ready to be seen? Am I ready to be known in my truth, not just in my image? Am I willing to hold space for someone else's healing while tending to my own? These are not easy questions. They require honesty, humility, and patience, but they are necessary, because love is not sustained by attraction. It is sustained by intention, by consistent showing up, by a mutual decision to grow not only as partners, but as individuals. And this kind of love is only possible when both people have spent enough time with themselves to know who they are, what they value, and what they are willing to build. Sometimes, what looks like delay is actually grace. You may think you are waiting, but in reality, you are being refined, being grounded, being softened in the right ways and strengthened in others. You are learning how to stay rooted in your peace regardless of what is happening around you. And when that inner foundation is strong, you begin to attract from a different place. You no longer respond to chaos because you are no longer chaotic within. You no longer chase intensity because you have cultivated inner stillness. You become magnetic to what is meant for you, not because you are trying, but because you are aligned. This is the power of preparation. It shifts your posture, it purifies your desires, it aligns your spirit with what is already written. Because the truth is, your soulmate is not just someone you find. It is someone you are led to when you have finally become the person who no longer questions their own worth, who no longer hides from their own reflection, who no longer fears being fully known. And that level of readiness can only be born in the quiet places, in the surrendered moments, in the sacred in-between, where the old you is released and the true you begins to rise. There comes a moment in your journey where you stop asking for signs and start becoming the sign. A shift happens deep within you. It is not loud or dramatic, but it is powerful. You begin to understand that the way God introduces you to your soulmate is not by sending someone to complete your story, but by first helping you rewrite your relationship with yourself. The love you attract is a reflection of the love you embody. The energy you receive is an echo of the energy you carry. Before God introduces you to your soulmate, He teaches you how to live in harmony with your own soul. This harmony does not come overnight. It is the result of layers being peeled back. Layers of expectation, fear, insecurity, and conditioning. You realize that so much of what you thought love was had been shaped by absence, not presence. That your definitions of connection were formed in moments of longing, not wholeness. So God takes you through a journey of remembering your worth, not because someone reminds you, but because you finally see yourself through divine eyes. You begin to treat your time, your energy, your heart as sacred. You no longer beg for attention because you have built a life that honors your own presence. This inner shift changes everything. It changes the way you communicate, the way you listen, the way you navigate conflict. You no longer enter relationships looking to be saved, validated, or filled. Instead, you enter them already whole, already grounded, already aware of your own value. This awareness allows you to discern, to observe, to choose wisely rather than impulsively. It gives you the ability to walk away from anything that does not mirror the peace you worked so hard to find. And this ability is not rooted in arrogance. It is rooted in clarity. When God prepares you for your soulmate, He refines your clarity. You begin to understand what you truly desire in a partner beyond the surface. You stop seeking perfection and start valuing presence, integrity, emotional maturity, spiritual depth. You begin to crave consistency more than chemistry, growth more than charm, alignment more than appearances. You are no longer impressed by potential. You are drawn to evidence, how someone shows up when it's not easy, how they hold space when it's uncomfortable, how they stay honest when vulnerability is required. And this new standard is not built from bitterness, but from healing. Healing changes the way you relate. It teaches you how to love without losing yourself. It teaches you how to set boundaries without guilt. It teaches you how to receive love without fear. So when the one who is meant for you appears, you recognize them not because of what they say, but because of what they bring out in you. They do not disturb your peace, they expand it. They do not dim your light, they honor it. They do not demand you shrink, they invite you to rise, and this recognition happens in stillness, not chaos. It feels safe, not confusing. It feels familiar, not forced. God introduces you to your soulmate not by sending you someone to rescue you, but by first allowing you to rescue yourself, to reclaim your voice, to rebuild your confidence, to reconnect with your intuition. And once you have done that, love no longer feels like something you have to chase. It begins to feel like something you naturally align with. There is no striving, no proving, no performing, just presence, just authenticity, just two souls, fully awake, fully aware, walking toward each other with open hands and open hearts. There is something sacred about two people meeting at the right time, when both have learned how to sit with themselves in silence, when both have walked through seasons of darkness and discovered their own light, when both have stopped blaming the world and started taking responsibility for their healing. In that kind of union, love is not an escape. It is a sanctuary. It is not about dependency. It is about support. It is not about control. It is about freedom. Freedom to be seen, to be held, to be challenged, and to be loved without condition. You begin to realize that divine love doesn't come to fill a hole. It comes to overflow from the fullness already within. It does not ask you to abandon your path. It aligns with it. It doesn't ask you to lose yourself. It deepens your sense of self. And the person who walks in will not feel like a stranger you have to impress, but like a mirror you have been preparing to face. You will recognize them in the way they move through the world, in the way they speak truth, in the way they honor not just who you are, but who you are becoming. And perhaps that is the most profound part of all, realizing that the journey was never just about finding someone else. It was about remembering yourself so clearly that when someone who has done the same appears, you do not flinch, you do not fear, you do not flee. You receive, you allow, you open, because you know the meeting was never random. It was orchestrated long before either of you could see it, nurtured through every moment of growth, every tear shed in solitude, every silent prayer whispered in faith. And when it finally happens, it does not feel like the beginning of something new, but the continuation of something eternal. And so, what once felt like waiting was never a delay, it was divine preparation. Every unanswered question, every season of solitude, every tear, every breakthrough, every quiet transformation was guiding you toward this truth. God does not simply give you love. He prepares you to become love. He does not just introduce you to someone else. He introduces you to yourself first. And when the time is right, when your soul is aligned, when your heart is whole, when your spirit is ready, he orchestrates the meeting not by chance, but by purpose. You will not need to question, you will not need to chase, you will simply recognize, because the one meant for your soul will arrive not to complete you, but to walk beside you, fully seen, fully known, fully chosen, not by accident, but by design. And in that moment, everything you once wondered about love will begin to make sense, not because it answered all your prayers, but because it became the living proof that your patience, your growth, and your faith were never in vain.